There's a category of AI tools that just made everything you knew about web design last year look slow. Tools that will build a full sitemap, a wireframe, and a copy block in less time than it used to take a designer weeks. And believe it or not, the output is, for the most part, usable. I've delivered over 750 websites, including builds for Fortune 500 companies, and I've spent the last few months testing pretty much every new AI tool that touches web design. Most of them I would still class as toys, but 5 of them have actually changed how the work gets done. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the 5 AI tools that are genuinely changing web design forever, what each one is actually good at, and how to use them to speed up your workflow. First, I want to show you the number one tool that my team and I are using every single day to save hours of labor when we're designing our custom websites. It's called Cursor, and it's essentially a code editor with a senior developer sitting inside of it. You describe basically what you want in plain English, it writes the code, it makes the edits across your project, and it works with you throughout the build. Work that used to require bringing in a developer and then draining the bank can now get done in a fraction of the time. You've got custom hover states, scroll animations, and unique layouts that don't exist as templates anywhere. Essentially, anything that used to get cut out for costing too much is now doable in an afternoon instead of a big prolonged sprint. But what I really like about it, and what sets it apart from any other AI coding tool, is the context. What Cursor will do is index your entire code base, meaning it knows what components exist, how the design system is set up, and then where every variable lives. So the code that it produces actually fits your project rather than generic snippets that you'd spend hours adapting with other tools. That's the real gap between Cursor and some random chatbot. It's the classic garbage in, garbage out analogy that I always use. A chatbot replies to a generic question with a generic answer. Cursor reads what you've actually built. It understands your systems, your components, your design tokens, and then it writes code that just slots right in. You're usually dropping in an output into the project rather than rewriting it from scratch. And this is where the workflow really clicks. Your CMS, for instance, Squarespace or Webflow, that takes care of the core build, while then Cursor handles the bespoke pieces that used to be the most expensive part of any premium project. That's the combination that I'm a huge fan of. Platform for foundation, Cursor for everything custom on top. That said, the trade-off is that the second you let AI write production code, you need to have someone or something reviewing the output. The same speed that makes Cursor so useful is exactly what makes it quite risky if nothing's being checked. And that review needs to be its own dedicated pass, a tool that's going to be built for catching problems as opposed to generating code. The mindset is different, the prompting is going to be different, and a tool designed to review will catch things that a tool designed to build won't. What I noticed is when AI writes 1,000 lines in like 30 seconds, it's easy to just look at it and go, oh hey, yeah, this looks pretty decent, and then move on. But what's buried in those 1,000 lines is a variable name that doesn't match the rest of the code base, or a deprecated dependency. None of this is obvious when you're reading through it quickly, and the model that wrote it is obviously not going to flag it either, because as far as it's concerned, the code looks perfect. This is where Copilot comes in. It reviews your changes before they go live. Pull requests, uncommitted edits, basically whatever you pointed at. And it reads through line by line, catching a lot of things that human reviewers will sometimes miss when they're just scanning through. Things like unused variables, inconsistent naming, the security issue that you forgot to handle. It does the really boring quality control pass that nobody on the team actually wants to do, but obviously they agree has to happen. It's the kind of pass that catches hard-coded API keys sitting in a public file before it ever leaves your machine, or the function that's been duplicated 3 times because the model didn't know the original existed. The reason this matters in particular for AI-built code is that when AI writes all that code, you don't have time to read every single line at the depth that you used to. Copilot does that in-depth read for you. So the speed that Cursor gives you on the build, Copilot lets you keep on the review. Without this second pass, the speed becomes the problem, because what happens is you ship faster, but you also ship more bugs, and then you ship more inconsistencies. More of the small stuff basically that adds up to the site feeling off when it goes live. And one caveat I'll add to these first 2 tools is that on smaller builds, I'd still rather write and check manually. I found that having one AI write, then another AI check is often slower than just doing it myself. But when you're working on something at scale, that's where being sort of AI powered gives you your real bang for buck. Now, if you've used Figma at any point in the past decade, what's matured in it over the last 6 months changes how the design works entirely. Right now, what you can do is you can describe a layout in a sentence, hit generate, and Figma builds you a starting point in real components directly onto the canvas. And these are actual editable components. You can restructure them and refine them, and with the right setup, you can wire them directly into your design system. The same first draft of a homepage that used to take us half a day, we've now got in front of us in about 90 seconds. And just to be clear, the version on the screen isn't the version that you ship, nor is that going to be the point. The point is that you can now generate 10 different directions in the time that it used to take to just draw out one, which means you can see which direction is best for the client in a matter of minutes, as opposed to hours or sometimes even days. But the part that's transformed our workflow is the variables work. The way Figma Make handles design systems has basically eliminated the most tedious part of the process. So what you do is you give it the brand direction, you tell it where you want to go visually, and it scaffolds the structure for you so you can have something ready to refine rather than needing to build from scratch every single time. That used to be the unglamorous half day at the start of the project, setting up the color palette as variables, building the type scale, deciding on spacing increments, naming the components so the developer can actually go ahead and use them. None of that being visible to the client, but all of it being very important for everything that comes after. Real quick, I've got 2 things for you. 1, my agency builds sites like this for clients full time, so there's a link in the description if you're interested. And 2, I'm running a community for designers called The Margin, where we share exactly how we use tools like the ones in this video on real builds. If that's more your thing, the link's also in the description. Now, nobody talks about this, but the reason most AI built websites look cheap isn't because of the layout. The layout is usually fine, not great, obviously, by any means, but it's fine. But every generic AI site uses the same 5 stock photos, the same generic gradient backgrounds, and the same icons everyone else is already using. And after testing loads of different tools, I found that MidJourney is the best answer to that. So we use it on basically every premium build now to generate bespoke assets, hero imagery, abstract textures, and branded illustration sets for clients. It's this visual layer that actually makes a site feel like it belongs to that one specific brand and nobody else. And once you've seen a site where the imagery is custom made, you just can't unsee it on the ones where it isn't. The hero image is made for that brand specifically. The textures behind the headlines are tuned to their color system. The illustrations actually carry the brand's visual language instead of looking like they were grabbed off the same library everyone else is using. This goes way beyond the hero images as well. Background textures, custom icons, brand specific patterns, the kind of work that you used to have to commission an illustrator for or settle, for like a stock icon or stock image that 10 other sites are already using. This is what separates a finished site that looks like a real brand from one that just looks like a template with the colors swapped. I would still always prefer to use real images, but MidJourney just bridges that gap for businesses who don't have these and still want that wow factor. Now let's move on to the 2 tools that I use more than anything else in this stack. And out of all the 5, these are the ones that I'd struggle most to give up. And I've lumped them together because I use these 2 tools in conjunction. So let's talk about Claude first. It's where I think through a brief before any design work starts. It's where the strategy doc gets written, the copy gets drafted, the conversion architecture gets mapped out. So when a brief comes in, the first thing that I'll do now is I'll open Claude and then I'll pressure test it. So I'll ask it things like, what does this site actually do for the business? Who's arriving at it? And what state are they in when they get there? What's the one action everything else has to lead towards? That thinking used to be done over, several messy pages of a notebook and then occasionally a few unfinished Google Docs. But now I can start it and finish it within one thread that I can just keep building on iteratively. Now, Whisper Flow is the tool that I use alongside it that massively multiplies my output. What it is a voice-to-text tool that lets you speak into any text output on your computer and it transcribes it in real time. So instead of typing out prompts, I'm actually just talking into Claude at roughly 3 times the speed that it would take me to type. So the conversations that I have it are longer, they're deeper, they're more like an actual back and forth report with a senior strategist, and the output reflects that. The difference is really, really hard to appreciate until you've actually felt it. When you type in, you're kind of like editing as you go. So you'll shorten the question, you'll cut the context, and you'll skip the part where you explain what you're actually trying to figure out. Because let's be real, typing as quick as you think is way harder than speaking just as quickly. And because you're not giving the AI the context that it needs, the answers you get are going to be shallow. Think back to the garbage in, garbage out analogy. But when you talk to it directly and you say everything you'd say to someone sitting across the table from you, the model gets the full picture and then its answers reflect that. And if you sat there thinking, yeah, but Sam, Claude has voice to text, I know, but the UI of Whisperflow is just so much nicer, and I like to use it across my workflow, whether it's updating clients or chatting internally with the team. Sometimes I'll even use it to answer YouTube comments, and I didn't think I'd be able to get to grips with it as easily as I did, but it's just been a real game changer. Now, coming back to Claude, while all the other tools handle, let's say, the practical stuff, Claude is quite a strategic layer that structures and controls all of the others. And then Whisperflow allows me to just overall do things a lot faster. It's not building anything visible, it's just making sure that everything else is being built for the right reasons. This is something no one really sees in the finished site, but you can feel its absence when it's missing. There are some tools I've tested and they didn't make the list. And as is often the case, what's left out is usually more telling than what's been included. Every couple of months, a new AI website builder goes viral with a demo where someone types one sentence and a finished site appears 30 seconds later. They'll then proclaim that they one-shotted this absolute beast. The demo itself looks quite impressive, but the output on a real client project just falls apart almost immediately. And that's my main problem with 99% of full site AI builders, because they promise you that you can build a complete website from a single prompt, but they all start to look the same, perform the same, and are basically always pulling from the mean, which means that you'll get like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 almost every single time, not much below and never higher. But as a web designer with almost a decade of experience now, I can guarantee you that they would be useless for a real client project. The output looks the same as any other, and the moment that a client wants something really specific, you're just stuck because the platforms are too closed to be modified. The design system isn't set up in a way that a designer would set it up, and any custom interaction that you want to add either isn't supported or it breaks the rest of the build. So you save 4 days at the start of the project, and then you lose a week at the back end trying to fix the parts that AI got close but not quite right. So the big takeaway is that the tools that earn their spot in this stack are the ones that support a designer who knows what they're doing. The ones that didn't are the ones that try to replace the designer entirely. That's the filter that I'd apply to anything new that comes out over the next year. The good tools, they accelerate the bits of the process that were always slow and tedious. The bad ones, what they do is they try to skip the bits that actually require judgment, which is where the output gives them away every single time. So that's the 5, or maybe it's 6 if you class Whisperflow and Claude as separate ones. Now, none of them on their own are going to build you a great website, but together they form a stack that lets a small team produce work in 2026 that would have taken 3 times the people and 4 times the timeline 2 years ago. I've said it before and I'll say it again, none of this will ever replace a designer who knows what they're doing. All I'm saying is that it helps make the designer move significantly faster with significantly less of the work going into the parts that nobody pays for the final site to have anyway. And look, every tool in that stack is going to make you faster, but none of them are going to fix the fundamentals underneath the tools, which is the part that actually decides whether a website works. So click this video here where I walk through what actually makes a website feel premium versus cheap before you even pick a tool. These are the things that separate sites people want to buy from versus sites people want to leave. I'll see you there.